Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the 2018 NFL Draft Class, specifically the top 5 cornerbacks in this draft class based on analytics. And if you've seen previous videos in terms of top 5, remember that those videos I made were back in May of last year. So a lot of the top 5 videos I did before were basically previewing the 2017 class, or at least previewing the 2018 class before the season even started. But this list right here is the final ranking. This is the final say on who the best cornerbacks are in this class based on data, based on analytics. So if you're new to the channel and you're new to the work that I do, all terms and definitions will be in the description. On top of that, if there are any cornerbacks on this list that you don't see, I would highly recommend that you purchase the 2018 NFL Draft Analytics Guide. That's available on Amazon.com right now, and the link is in the description. In that guide, you will have pretty much all the major cornerbacks in this draft class based on their athleticism traits, their production traits, and even their age traits on paper, and arm length, hand size, etc. So it's by far the most comprehensive analytics guide you will find in this draft class, and it's really one-stop shopping. A lot of different analytics guides in this draft class will give you stuff on production, or they might give you stuff on athleticism, but they don't give you the full picture. That guide gives you the full picture. So be sure to purchase that. All the money I make off of that helps support this channel. So again, be sure to go out and even recommend it to a friend or a buddy, whoever you know. So starting with the top 5 corners in this draft class based on analytics, based on data, starting with number 5, we have Quenton Meeks, cornerback out of Stanford. When you get to his production data, he had a 65.88 solo tackle score and a 73.02 pass deflection score. Pretty much hits the Pro Bowl and All-Pro averages in terms of bottom and not averages, but bottom end threshold. So every All-Pro cornerback since 1989 had at least a 61.10 solo tackle score and a 61.18 pass deflection score since 1989. And again, he hits above those thresholds, 65.88, 73.02. When it comes to the averages at the position, he runs into a couple snags. Again, he doesn't really hit the average All-Pro score for his solo tackle data, nor does he hit the average Pro Bowl score in terms of solo tackle data, but does hit at least close to the Pro Bowl average and does hit at least above the Pro Bowl average in terms of pass deflection data. So when it comes to his production data, not fantastic or elite per se. It didn't really hit 90+ percentile in terms of his production data, but still hits at least the bottom end thresholds he needs to hit, and does hit at least above the average Pro Bowl score in terms of pass deflection data. So still very, very strong production data. Then you get to his athleticism traits. He had a 97.72 explosive lower body strength score, 82.02 speed score, 91.51 flexibility score. When it comes to the All-Pro averages, he doesn't really hit, he doesn't really come within range of that when it comes to his speed score, but does have very good explosion, very good flexibility testing, and more so looks like a Pro Bowl cornerback when it comes to his athleticism traits. So overall, this is a guy that has a very, very strong zone corner profile, like a high quality, souped up athleticism profile in terms of as a zone corner. Again, doesn't have elite speed, but does have elite explosiveness and elite flexibility, and those are traits that really do matter at the cornerback position, especially now. So in many ways, Quenton Meeks is built for the game today. He's built for the game where you're kind of attacking the short, intermediate kind of routes when it comes to his athleticism traits. And I think overall, very, very good production profile, very good athleticism profile, and that is why he's number 5 in this list. Then we get to number 4 in this list. We have Joshua Jackson, cornerback out of Iowa. You get to his production trait, 62.20 in terms of solo tackle data, 88.86 in terms of pass deflection data, and very similar to Meeks, solo tackle data is not exactly where it needs to be in terms of the averages of the position, more so than the bottom end threshold, but his pass deflection data absolutely is. Very, very high pass deflection data when you look at his overall, scores, if you will. And then when you get to his athleticism traits, this is the only area where he kind of messes up a bit. 80.19 in terms of explosive lower body strength score, 40.14 in terms of speed score, and 79.40 in terms of flexibility testing. In many ways, he doesn't quite hit the bottom end threshold for All-Pro potential and Pro Bowl potential because of his speed score, but there's been a recent trend towards slower cornerbacks working out in the NFL level. You know, you look at guys like Richard Sherman, who's kind of an outlier, but then you have guys like Josh Norman that kind of pops up here and there. And so for the bottom line is Joshua Jackson has a profile that looks more like a long-term starter, a very productive long-term starter, but I do think there's some data that could indicate that things are shifting in such a way that Joshua Jackson might be even better than what most of the data says about him. The bottom line is I think Joshua Jackson is a guy who's a cornerback who fits in a very specific type of scheme. So this is not a man cornerback. This is not a guy you want covering wide receivers that run 4-3 by himself. But he is a guy that if you put him in a zone scheme, you give some safety help, let him just roam around and hit things in front of him, I think he's going to be very, very good at that at the next level. So that's just how you have to look at Joshua Jackson, is from the perspective of scheme fit. And if you put him in the right scheme, he could flourish in that scheme. If you don't put him in the right scheme, then he kind of just fades away. So again, just make sure that you track these things as you go along. Then we get to the number 3 cornerback in this list, which is actually very surprising to me to a certain extent. But it's Emmanuel Moseley, cornerback out of Tennessee, guy that did not have a combine invite, but very good production data, 66.43 in terms of solo tackle data, 96.47 in terms of pass deflection data. He played at Tennessee, by the way. This is not a small school cornerback by any stretch of the imagination. Then we get to his athleticism data, 81 in terms of explosion, 77.06 in terms of speed, and 85 in terms of flexibility for his size. All those marks pretty much hit Pro Bowl potential, more so than All-Pro potential, but again, very strong overall profile. Now, Moseley was a guy that I was familiar with. I liked his film a lot, and just didn't get a lot of traction. You know, Rashawn Golden, the other DB at Tennessee, kind of got all the love and all the spotlight, but Moseley just has a better profile. And like in many ways, he is one of the better profiles at Tennessee in this draft class. So out of all the draft eligible players at Tennessee, Moseley's kind of the best testing amongst the bunch. So again, I think when it comes to Moseley, he's a guy that kind of came out of left field because of his pro day and because of other different things, but very, very strong profile when you look at it. And not that old either, pretty young prospect as well. So look out for Moseley as a guy that kind of gets drafted day 3, or if he does get drafted day 2, this would be a big reason why he gets drafted day 2, is because of the strong production profile and because of the strong athleticism profile. Then we get to number 2 on this list. We have Denzel Ward, cornerback out of Ohio State. When you get to his production data, 32.94 in terms of solo tackle data, 88.24 in terms of pass deflection data. The solo tackle data is the only area where there's a lot of concern, because again, 88.24 pass deflection is very, very good, and that's the major strong point. And if that pass deflection data wasn't where it is, he wouldn't really be number 2 in this list, but because it is, that's why he is here. Again, very, very strong overall profile in terms of pass deflection data. Hits at least, there's some Pro Bowl potential here. Definitely is below the average solo tackle score in terms of his, solo tackle data, but still strong profile when it comes to pass deflection data. Then he gets his athleticism traits, very strong as well, 83.72 in terms of explosion, 89.25 in terms of speed, and 95.30 in terms of flexibility for his size. Pretty much hits all-pro potential in terms of his athleticism traits, and definitely Pro Bowl potential when you look at all the data. Bottom line is, and I've done videos on Denzel Ward in the past, and you can look up Denzel Ward analytics into Google, and you'll find the videos on him. But just a guy that has a strong chance of becoming a long-term starting cornerback at the next level, could become an Asante Samuel type as a Pro Bowler, but he just doesn't quite have the length nor the production traits to become a multiple All-Pro cornerback at the next level. So, like a Darrelle Revis, Patrick Peterson, Charles Woodson, those types of cornerbacks, or Nnamdi Asomugha even, those are guys that Denzel Ward doesn't really look like from a size perspective, arm length perspective, production perspective, but still very strong profile, very good chance of becoming a long-term starter, and that's why he's number 2 on this list, and also faced very, very tough competition in Ohio State. Then we get to the number 1 cornerback in this draft class based on analytics. We get Jaire Alexander, cornerback out of Louisville. Looking at his production data, 87.53 in terms of solo tackle data, 69.65 in terms of pass deflection data. Very similar situation to Denzel Ward, where his solo tackle data is not exactly where it needs to be. Pass deflection data is solid, though. And then you get to his athleticism traits, 81.58 in terms of explosive lower body strength score, 95.52 in terms of speed score, and 98.59 in terms of flexibility testing. So a great all-around athlete who just is incredibly flawed in terms of his production data. In many ways, this is kind of similar to like Fabian Washington, for example, who's another cornerback in the past who didn't have the best production data per se, but definitely a elite level athlete. And that's why he's number one in this list, is that, again, there's a lot of question marks here in terms of his production data when it comes to solo tackle data, and even pass deflection data to a certain extent. Definitely doesn't hit above the all-pro average in terms of pass deflection data, but very, very strong overall profile, has a little bit more length than Denzel Ward, is a little bit bigger than Denzel Ward as well, which is why he's number one on this list. And also a guy that's fairly young as well, so which Denzel Ward is young too, so that's also another factor that kind of plays into things. But the bottom line is, when it comes to this cornerback class from a data perspective, is there just is not any elite cornerbacks in this class. There's no generational cornerbacks is all I'm trying to say. Darrelle Revis, Charles Woodson, Patrick Peterson, those types. But it's still a very good class. There's still a lot of cornerbacks that can become long-term starters. There's definitely a bunch that could become Pro Bowlers. It's just a matter of not giving up the farm for these types of guys. So I definitely think that there's not a ton of busts in this class, but there definitely are guys that may not meet the expectations that you expect of them. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Gymmetrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always reminded when another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace!